Hello, everyone. I'm Professor John Nguyen, and welcome to chemistry. But today it's going to be biological chemistry, all right, which is biochemistry. So, welcome. In this few chapters, I combine them all together. I would like to introduce you to the basic of biochemistry. We'll be looking at three most important classes of compounds. Okay, those are carbohydrates, lipids, um, protein. Okay, and then finally we'll be looking at the ultimate molecules that control the synthesis of protein. Um, and then from there, of course, related to other biomolecules, lipid and um, carbohydrate as well. Okay, and that's blueprint molecules are RNA and DNA. Okay, those are the ultimate molecules. All right, let's get right on it. Okay. All right. First one, carbohydrate. Okay, you probably heard about carbohydrate all the time in daily diets. The moment we get up in the morning, um, carbohydrate is probably the first thing that we go for. Donut, um, bagels, muffins and all that. Drink, even in the drink, we add sugars. Okay, so carbohydrates refer to sugars, starch, and also fibers. Okay, the there's another one I didn't mention here, but you probably know that's glycogens. Okay, starch is the storage form of carbohydrate in a plant, and glycogen is in animals. All right. Okay. Carbohydrate, which is sugars, are primary molecules responsible for short-term energy storage in living organisms. Uh, Short-term energy, and if you need energy, this is it. Okay, it gives you energy really quick. The carbohydrate form the main structure of components of plants. So they in plants. Okay, and we know it's photosynthesis. Take the CO2 and water, turn that into glucose. That's the first carbohydrate. That's monosaccharide. And then other carbohydrates are formed from there. All right. Now, the reason why we call it carbohydrate is because carbon means carbon, hydrate means water. So if you pretty much combine water and carbon together, multiple units, and that's carbohydrate. Of course, these are chemically bonded. Okay, we cannot just get charcoal, which is carbon, and mix with water and turn that into sugars. All right. Okay. Structurally, carbohydrates are either aldehydes or ketones. Okay, and contains a lot of OH group. That's alcohol functional group, and that's why they're very soluble in water. All right. And here is the structure. The first one, glucose. Believe it or not, glucose, fructose, and galactose, these are all simple sugars. These are all monosaccharides. Okay, monos mean just single units. Now, it's pretty amazing that they all have the same formulas, molecular formula, C6H12O6. Okay, so they are all structural isomers. They are different compounds, but they share the same formulas. All right. Glucose is an aldehyde. It has aldehyde functional group C double bond O with the hydrogens right next to it. If you go way back to chapter 7, you see the whole table of functional group, aldehyde CHO. That will be carbon number 1. That way we number it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that's 6 carbon. All right. And there's a lot of OH. You notice that, and these have to be in the right place. Okay, this has to be on the right. This has to be on the left, and this last two um, has to be on the right. And of course, the last one, the very last one, is always it doesn't matter. It's not 3D specific. All right. Okay, glucose is very popular. It's a blood sugars, and it can be transported easily in the bloodstream, and we use them, and then extra we'll get them into storage. Okay, and that's what insulin is for, to control the level of glucose. It's like a key to open up uh, the door for the storage, or um, if there's too much. All right. Well, what you just saw was the straight form, the straight open structure of glucose, but in reality, that's not very stable. So um, it has to be protected somehow. And pretty smart molecule. It's wrap it up itself. So what you see here, the carbon right here labeled red, that that's OH right there, will turn around, okay, and you can see right there, connect to the carbon number 1, okay. When it's connected to carbon number 1, we have two choices. Now that's double bond O will turn into an OH, and either it stick down or it stick up, okay, and then we'll have the name for that. If that OH is down, we call it alpha. If that OH is up, we call it beta. Okay, so that's 50-50 chance right there to form two different structures. Okay, so that's what you see, the cyclic form, the ring form of glucose, which is more stable. Okay, that way. All right. Okay. Now, similarly, we have fructose, but because fructose it's a ketone, so um, when it's connected, it's connected to the carbon number 2, from the top down. Okay, so carbon number 2 right there. So we end up with a CH2OH on both ends. Okay, and we also have two options. That's ketone turn into a OH, and it's either up or down. Okay. Um, Same for galactose, it's either up or down. So we always have two different forms. Now, naturally, fructose is going to be up, and galactose is going to be down. And glucose is always going to be down. So alpha for both. Remember this one right here, the OH all the way on the carbon, all the way on the right. It's carbon number 1. It's down, it's alpha. Okay, if it's up, it's beta. So that's beta. All right. Fructose is known as fruit sugars, and it is a hexol because they all hexol because it has 6 carbon. Just because it has 6 carbon. Glucose, fructose, and galactose. Um, Good morning. Okay. Um, and glucose is an aldehyde. That's the difference between glucose and fructose. Fructose is a ketone. Now, the fructose is in fruits. That's what we call fructose. And you can see them in many different foods, and also a major component in honey, like bee honey. Galactose, it's very interesting that galactose is also known as the brand sugars, and and usually combined with glucose to form lactose, which is the milk sugars. So obviously we need galactose. It's present in the brain and the nervous system of most animals. Glucose is plus sugars, and that's very popular. That's provides us with energy, short-term energy. All right. Now, usually in daily diet, we don't see monosaccharides. We see a combination of two monosaccharides, two simple sugars combined together to form what we call a disaccharide. And when they come together, connect together, the bond is called a glycosidic linkage. It's actually a chemical bond. It's covalent bond. It's very strong bond that connect them together. All right, and for example, and that's form a disaccharide. For example, sucrose, that's table sugars, or lactose, that, as I mentioned earlier, that's milk sugars. All right. Okay, here's what it shows. Glucose connect to fructose. All right, we have glucose with the OH all the way on the carbon. That's carbon number one. On the ring system, it's all the way on the right. And it's pointing down, so that's alpha. It doesn't show here, but it's alpha. And it will connect to a fructose on that carbon, and that's OH. When they make that connection, there's too many oxygen, so two hydrogen and one oxygen have to be eliminated, and that's become water. And that linkage right there, that's an ether linkage. We call that a glycosidic bond. Okay, so as you can see, it's alpha, so pointing down. Okay. Okay. Now, if we take, so that's a sucrose molecules. Now, but if we take a glucose, connect to another glucose, and keep going, we got a polymers of glucose. We call that a polysaccharide. Okay, and we keep going and keep going, thousands and thousands of them. We get ourselves a molecules known as starch molecules. There are actually two different kinds of starch. Okay, that's amylose and amylose pectin. The difference between amylose and amylose pectin is the amylose has fewer branches. Like this is a straight chain, and then you have one that's branching off. That's amylose. It has less branching compared to amylose pectin. So we can think about simple starch versus complex starch or complex carbohydrate, which is better because the structures have more branching. Our body, it will take longer for us to digest. So the plus glucose will not be suddenly increased to a high level. It's slowly increased. So that gives us time to process the glucose and use them instead of getting too much in the bloodstream. Okay. All right. But in the next video, we'll look into different kinds of carbohydrate, and then and then move on to the next molecules, next important biomolecules. Okay, and that would be lipids, which is next. Okay, but we'll wrap this up before we move on to lipids. All right, thank you everyone.